Hello, everyone. It's Dominic here from Esports News UK, and this is a very unique interview today. I'm joined by Viperoon, aka Will Whittingham, caster. Should I say former caster now? Will.
I don't know what the correct term is. I've been going by washed up caster for like 2 years, but I guess I've finally fully been beached by the waves. So maybe former caster with an asterisk after it is probably the technical term, I'd
Understood.
guess.
Okay, and it's like I say, it's a strange one, Will, because I've wanted to interview you for ages, and now we're finally getting round to it. But you're leaving, right? So you put a tweet out last month saying you're moving away from casting after the most recent NLC and EU Masters in League of Legends, of course. So what prompted that, Will? Because your experience, you've been doing casting for quite a few years now. To me, it seemed sudden and out of the blue, and made me quite sad, to be honest, to see you leaving. Because we'll come on to this later, but I think you're one of the underrated casters of UK and Nordics League of Legends.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite weird because I talked to a few people just after announcing, and they were all saying like, "Wow, this is really sudden. What's happening?" But it's actually been in the works for a little while. So
Right.
it was near the end of NLC last split, and then moving towards European Masters. I was basically just thinking about what I was going to be doing moving forward, and how things were looking. And just because of the changes that were made to ERL and LEC and what the casting career roadmap looked like,
Mm.
it was becoming increasingly obvious to me that I wasn't going to be climbing at a rate that would have been viable for me, essentially. So I'd been doing it for a split and a half as my full-time job at that stage. And while bills were being paid and rent was being paid, it was kind of that was it. There was no advancement, there was no growth, particularly for me, it felt like. And while I was still getting NLC European Masters, I was still doing gigs that a lot of casters will bite your hand off for. Increasingly, I was just kind of turning up and saying, this is a good paycheck. It's good that I'm being on this stuff. But increasingly, my heart was kind of falling out of it. I love a bit with casting, the like background shenanigans in terms of who gets on what shows and stuff were getting to me a little bit. The social media side of it and the constantly being online, constantly having to push yourself as a brand. It's weighed me down for years in terms of that social media side of things. And like, I'm sure we'll talk about that plenty.
Yeah.
But it was just a point where I had so many things that kind of piled up, and I was like, can I see myself in 5 years' time being a full-time League of Legends caster, even if I was doing Worlds and doing LEC? And I was talking to a few people about it, and they were like, honest, and people outside of the esports scene, so some of my mates and my partner and stuff, and they were just like, dude, you're just not happy. Like, you're just not having a good time. Your job is shouting at video games. That's really cool, but like, clearly this isn't what's making you happy. Can you change the things that will make you happy in this job? And I was like, well, no, I don't get to choose that kind of stuff. And at that point, they said, look, well, if you're not happy, go and do something else. Unfortunately, I like have a degree, I've got an education, I've got a decent amount of experience at work. So I was like, look, now's the opportunity for me to make a change and set in motion stuff. So I set in motion changes. I was fortunate in getting a new job or getting a new training course at university.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of a plan to retire after NLC this split. Riot was super accommodating when they contacted me about European Masters, and I said, look, I'm going to be not available for many dates. And they said, hey, just do what you can. And I was fortunate a couple of group dates actually lined up. But yeah, it was just a lot of different things kind of piling on. A lot of, I guess, just fatigue, because I have been in this game a bit longer than some of the other people at this level.
Yeah.
And just kind of, things just didn't really fall into place the same way that they have for other people, I guess. And at some point, you've got to make that decision where, I could have cast NLC and European Masters for the next 5 years and paid rent and probably have been fine. But at the end of the day, is that what I really wanted for myself moving into my late 20s, early 30s? And the answer was ultimately no, unfortunately.
You've made some really great points there, Will, that I'm going to come on to. I'm just going to say hello to Nudo and everyone else who's joining us
Trev.
today.
Okay. Hey, Nudo.
Nudo said heyo in the chat. And what I will say, I forgot to say this at the start. If anyone has questions for Will, please drop them in the chat and I'll do my best to ask them. Now, I have a lot of questions on my list already. There's no holding back today. I've said to Will before the interview, he's got the floor. He's leaving casting behind. That doesn't mean we're going to be unnecessarily spiteful or anything like that. And but it's great because it means we can have a sort of real uncensored dialogue and get a good understanding of the inner workings of being in casting. Temporal's there as well. Hello, Temporal. Now, I've been a noob here, Will, and I've forgotten to update the what do you call it? The heading on the Twitch stream. So I'm going to update that now. I'm going to put live interview of UK LoL caster Viperoon on quitting. Are you quitting the scene entirely? Are you going to keep LoL as a hobby and so on? What's your thoughts there?
I don't think I'll ever fully quit League of Legends as a game. I've been playing League of Legends since early season 2.
Yeah.
And I love the game. I really, really do. So I imagine that I'll continue around League of Legends. In terms of in the scene, in terms of UK League of Legends and Nordic League of Legends and European League of Legends, I'm undecided. There have already been a couple of absolute chances in my DMs like, yo, Aurora Cup, like, what's your plans for that? And I'm like, I literally just announced my retirement. I'm not going to just appear on Aurora Cup for every single broadcast like, hey, I'm not actually retired. So I think there will definitely be a period where I'm going to, like, at least for this year, I think I'm going to take a step back and basically be like, I'm not looking to do any, especially unpaid stuff. I want to have a bit of separation from that. Obviously, if someone comes in with a bit of cash and they're like, you're free this day, we need someone this day, do you want to fill in for us? Then yeah. But also, there's such a big part. I mean, this has been a driving force a lot in this retirement as well, in terms of not just saying I'm going to step away and do another job, but also still continue casting, because I could do that probably. Is that there are people in the scene, and there have been people in the scene, and there will be people in the scene who will stick around and just kind of take paychecks and don't really look to grow or move or expand. And there's so many good novice casters who are not getting paid for their craft at the moment, where, look, if my heart's not in anymore and I'm kind of just doing it for a bit of cash, the next generation needs to get through at some point, and they're not going to do it if my big head's in the way. So it's giving an opportunity for some of these new casters to come in and like have an opportunity to show off and see what they can do. And ultimately, hey, some of them will get the opportunity and fail. That's just how it is. There have been people at my level who did that kind of stuff. We'll get onto that later, I'm sure. But there are going to be good play-by-plays who are good hosts who deserve a shot at NLC plus level, who haven't had a shot this season because Viperoon's been casting. So I don't want to be going onto Aurora Cup on every broadcast when there are like 5 or 6 names I could grab out thin air that should be getting those opportunities over someone who is admittedly leaving, right?
Yeah. I think the other great point, and the thing that I took from your initial answer to me, Will, was that, you know, you're not enjoying this. It's taken you a while to realise. And I'll be honest, you know, I love esports and I love video games and I love League of Legends and I love the people in League of Legends for the most part. But doing it as a job is very different. And sometimes you need that break. I've had a little bit of a break the past couple of weeks, but because it's just me, you know, and the occasional volunteer and freelancer, I can't take a full, complete break. And sometimes I wish I could take a big break or just step away. And, you know, look at someone like Medic, really experienced in the LEC. He's at the height of his game. He's knowledgeable. He's great at what he does. You know, I can't speak for Medic, obviously, because he's not here. But he's taken several breaks. At times he's been open, and it sounds like he hasn't fully enjoyed his work because he's doing so much. And in a way, you get locked in. I feel locked in. I can't leave now. I could if I wanted to, but it's that pressure.
Yeah, it's so rough on talent as well. Because you look at Quickshot, he also took a break for a while at the end of last season. The problem with being a freelancer, being talent, and this is something that my friends were super excited about when I had announced I was retiring, getting like a real job. you cannot do anything or make any plans, because my friends will be like, hey, we're going on holiday for this week in 6 months' time. And I'll look at the schedule and be like, that's European Masters finals. What if I get the call up for that? What if I get the call up for a week of LEC randomly for every single play-by-play is being hit by a bus or whatever? Like, I can't plan my life because I'm always having to grab that opportunity, right? And there are plenty of stories of people who have almost missed that opportunity or have missed that opportunity because of life in general. And there's something that I say a lot to people, especially when I'm doing VODs and stuff with casters. There comes a point, and it's a very real point for every caster, that you have to make a decision whether you're going to make casting your whole existence, at least for a little while, right? Are you willing to uproot your life, move to Berlin because that's where we've decided the center of esports is? It shouldn't be, but we don't need to talk about that right now. Are you willing to not to commit your life to learning League of Legends, to playing League of Legends, to casting it, to have your social circle be esports people, because realistically that's all you're going to be able to have. And a lot of people are willing to say yes. And so if you're not willing to say yes, you immediately fall down the pecking order, because suddenly there are advantages that other people will naturally have that you can't. So it's very tricky and it's very rough. And for people like Medic and Quickshot, who have at some point answered yes to that question, look, they've been in the game a long, long time. Medic's been casting, 2015, 2014 he started out?
2014, I think. Yeah, maybe even a little bit before then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been such a long time for him. Quickshot's been at the top of the game for such a long time. People, it's hard to be in the spotlight and working that hard for that long to be the best. So I'm not surprised that people are needing to take breaks and feeling worn out and stuff. And I mean, hey, I'm feeling it, and I've been in the game properly a much shorter time than they have. So it makes sense to me.
I see it across the board as well. Peter Dunn, well-known coach, was saying about having some downtime, but then, hang on a minute, watching all these other regions and things that are going on, and you don't really get a break, or you're catching up on VODs, and there's all loads of different tournaments going on. It doesn't stop. You have to make yourself stop. But you've obviously decided to stop in casting permanently. I'll just say hi to a few other people in the chat here. We've got Sarge, Reed HD, Jace is here. EdTech Esports, I think that's Matt. Hello, Matt. Thanks for tuning in. Says, I'm fairly new to casting, but it seems like when I was in the music industry and eventually needed to get out of it, it happens, doesn't it? You get sort of locked in and you need a bit of a break, like we've been saying. Will, I want to ask something here.
Okay.
Let's go back. We'll do a bit of your background. We've spoken a bit about why you're leaving. Now, Leaguepedia says your first event is in 2015, but it doesn't say what it was. What was your first one?
My first my first cast was in 2015, and it was for the ESL Community Cups when they were still a thing.
Yeah.
Back in the day, long, long ago, I was a fresh-faced 18-year-old, and I had applied to be on NUEL for casting, and I had applied with a friend. Shout out Squagnall. He won't be watching this, but we were rubbish. We were awful. So they quite correctly did not get back to us, which was, devastating at the time, but I've been rejected from NUEL since then, so I'm not that fussed about it. So I got to university and I was enjoying the esports lifestyle, playing video games with my team and stuff, for NUEL. NSE wasn't even a thing back when I was at university. That's how old I am. And a teammate of mine from my NUEL team was like, hey, do you want to try some casting with me? And it was his idea. And I said, oh yeah, that sounds fun. If you can find something for us to cast, I'd be happy to sit down and chat at video games with you. And he applied for the Community Cups, which fortuitously we managed to get on because we were the only people who applied, basically. And the League of Legends admin for those tournaments at the time was Will Atwood.
Oh, yes. Shout out to Will. He's at Riot now.
Yeah, he's been all over the shop. He was at ESL back then as well, and he's done a lot of stuff with Riot. I think it was at Ubisoft at one point as well.
Yeah.
So he was the admin for the tournament, and me and Invisus turn up and just start shouting at video games. And it was a lot of fun. And I actually ended up on the ESL Prem. Their
Yeah.
second stream I did a week of because their casters were ill. And Will was like, "Hey, Viperoon, please." I think I was called Collision at that time, actually. I had a different username. He was like,
Oh,
"Collision,
right.
please come and just do our second stream because no one's here to do it." So I did that. Well, it was awful again. Like, it was terrible. He never called me back, not unreasonably. But yeah, that was when I started, but I kind of didn't take it very seriously. It was a big joke to me, and I quit after about a year because it was taking up quite a lot of my time doing this stuff. And I
Mm,
was at university at the time, and I was like, I'd quite like to get my degree that I'm paying 27 grand for.
mm.
So I put it on the back burner massively, and then I picked it up again as an actual hobby slash thing I was taking mildly seriously in 2019. But a lot of people always laugh at me and say, if you'd kept on and actually taken it seriously in 2015, that was when the likes of Medic, Foxtrot, Hitbrain, and
That's
stuff
it.
was starting out. So I
Yeah.
could have actually been in that cohort if I'd taken my life a little bit more seriously when it came to casting. And then it's just a case of I don't know where I'd be if that had been the case. But
Mm,
yeah, I've been around for a while, but not properly since 2019, really.
mm. I was one of the people I pushed Will to get. I was like, "Hey, why don't you get guest streamers and things? We've
Mm,
got we've got Grosscore, we've got Foxdrop." That was before Grosscore had been cancelled,
yeah.
and then I found out Foxdrop like a month or two later. Will messaged me. Skype it was back then. Discord wasn't
Mm.
a thing, and he's like, "Look what we've got, Dom." And I did the news. I was like, "Oh wow!" And then Foxdrop, did pretty well from there. He's had a bit of a break as well, and a bit of a not
Yeah.
being asked back to do things, which I found surprising because I thought he brought
Yeah.
a bit of personality to it. Do you know what? This isn't on my list of questions here, Will, but it's something I remember seeing on another video. I can't remember who said it now, and I don't know how true this is, but I'd love
Mm.
to hear your take on it, whether it is true or not. That Riot and/or other tournament operators in general sometimes do a thing where they don't ask a caster back to see how they react.
I have not heard that or seen that personally.
Right. Okay.
However, it would not shock me. I've seen casters getting fired, and I have been fired myself.
Have you?
Yeah, the hair incident at the Baltic Masters is truly my favorite tale in esports. Where I got sacked from Baltic Masters, and when I asked why, they said, "Oh, we don't like your hair," and I
Really?
was like, "My brothers in Baltics, how are you doing?" And then they followed up with like a bunch of other like made up reason, essentially. I've got the email saved. I was thinking of framing it on my wall at some point in a
You
little
can read it
shrine.
out if you want, Will.
I
If
mean,
this is how much of a Dunzo manifesto is this going to be
I
tonight?
mean, these are the questions, aren't they? So it was basically a case of they sat me down. They were like, "We," because I had longer hair than I have now and a beard.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, we don't like your presentation on broadcast." And I was like, "But my clothing is the same as like the other casters in terms of style, except Carmeline, who dressed up a little bit more than we do, but you never asked us to dress up, except for finals where you told us to wear shirts and we all did." And then they're like, "Oh, it's like your hair and facial hair."
Well,
And
why
I was
didn't they
like,
tell you that beforehand?
well, this is the thing. I was like, A, why didn't you say it was a problem? B, it's not allowed to be a problem that I have a beard and facial hair, and longer hair. If it's clean, then I look presentable. Like, there's not a problem with it. And it was the funny thing was because it was just after it was like as Medic was going for the longer hair beard style.
Mm,
So I was having a similar style to Medic at that point,
mm.
and I got sacked from a broadcast for it. And I was like, "Oh, Medic better watch himself because he's gonna be kicked if he's not careful."
Wow.
Um, no, I mean the whole thing was really a sham. That situation, like, there was a bunch of stuff. They made up a bunch of excuses where they were like, "Look, it was like they said it was financial, but then the other casters said they would take pay cuts, and they were denied that. And then it was because I didn't cast well with Doctor, but then Doctor said to them, Viperoon's the person I like casting with the most, so that doesn't make any sense." Essentially, they just wanted me gone, I think, was
Mm.
the thing. And I kind of run my time at Baltics down at that point anyway. But yeah, that was the funniest stories. But yeah, no, I wouldn't be shocked to hear if people get let go from opportunities just to see how they react.
Mm.
Super scummy practice if it is happening, though. Esports organizers don't do that, obviously.
No.
But I've never seen or heard of that happening anywhere that I've worked.
I think it might have been for duos. That is coming back to me now. Again, I don't know how true this is, but if you try and push yourself as a duo, one or a few of the tournament organisers will sometimes invite one and not the other to see how
Oh,
the other one
absolutely!
reacts. You
That
know,
is absolutely
Uh,
cursed if that is true. If
yeah, it is.
that is awful. I mean, I haven't had a duo for years because mine kept leaving me, and then I kind of just gave up after
Mm.
Jamada broke my heart. I was like, no, I
Oh
can't do this
no.
again. Well, it was the running joke where I started casting with Doctor, and
Mm.
it was a lot of fun. It was great. But he got NUEL and I didn't, and I was like, you scumbag, get out of here. And then I got on Baltics with Trouble, which was amazing. And then she got European Masters at NLC and I didn't. I was like, get rid. I don't care. This is fine. I'm going to work with Jamada because he seems fun. And then he got European Masters at NLC and I didn't. And I was like, this is now a pattern. It needs to stop.
But
And the
do you think?
final. Hmm?
Do you think it's because you're a duo and you're
Oh,
sort of giving them a lift? So maybe
I'm the greatest booster in esports history. The real one that killed me was when after Baltic Masters and Women's NUEL, Carmeline got invited onto NLC before I did. And at that point, I was like, flip my desk. I just don't care anymore. It's absolutely cursed. People were DMing me like, dude, like, can I cast like one game with you so I can get onto LEC? And I was like, you need to shut up. So, no, I mean, fact of matter is they always need color casters and they don't need play-by-plays so much. But it was
Mm.
just, it happened so consistently. It was so funny. And it became an internal meme in places like Square One that you cast me one time, you get NLC. Um, I don't think I boosted people necessarily in terms of ability. You look at Trouble and Jamada, they're both monsters. Carmeline, Wild Rift aficionado. Doctor is the one that got away in terms of not actually getting away. But no, it was I always took much pride in my role as player play was to make your analysts look good because
Mm.
ultimately they're the one that's adding value to the broadcast, not the play by play.
Yeah.
So I was always very much like 95% of this game, I'm gonna make you look good. You got questions you want me to ask you? You tell me beforehand. I'll give you questions. If I've done prep work, here's all the good information. You want to steal any of that and say that you did it, you do it. In those team fights where I'm going to speak for 2 minutes without pausing,
Mm.
that's when I'm popping off. Like, don't talk to me in those periods. But past that, my job is to make you look good. And the fact that people were getting so consistently up there in top levels and clearly were getting recognized for their ability. I don't take credit for that at all, but I do take a little bit of pride of like, clearly I'm not doing my job very wrong if this is going to continue happening.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you mentioned Doctor there. Now, when I think of underrated UK LoL
Mm,
casters, I think of yourself, Doctor, and also Greyheart. That and now those two have done a few Insomnias
mm.
now. Greyheart has done it for a few years, and I interviewed them at Insomnia 68 earlier this year when we chatted about reaching that next level in casting, how to go from national leagues up to LEC and so on. And, there's a bottleneck, right? Because when you've
Yeah.
still got Medic and people, Vedius, I did a tweet the other day. This is his sixth Worlds in a row. He's going to be on the broadcast talent lineup for, which is pretty impressive. And while those people are there, it means other people can't get their hands in the cookie jar, basically. You have to
Mm.
sort of wait. What are your thoughts of how competitive the casting world is? Is it, because
It's
everyone seems like they're friends, but is there a bit of
oh no 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 no. So there's a scale, and the standard point. I was talking to a couple of casters about this. The standard point for casters is everyone is out for themselves and people will help you as long as it doesn't not benefit them, right? That is
Mhm.
kind of the baseline standard. So you've got people who, in my career, there have been people who have gone out of their way to help me, even if it hasn't benefited them. Dr. Carmeline have both willingly put themselves in positions where they would have been worse off, but I would have been better off, and they've both willingly done that. But that is such an exception. You've got a few people who are legitimately like, hey, I'm going to help you as much as possible, but ultimately I need to look out for myself. This is especially common where a lot of analysts, so as a play-by-play, a lot of Carla casters, I have that relationship with them because they we're not competing for stuff.
Yeah.
So they're like, hey, we can work together, we can do this, I can tell you this stuff. But then there are a lot of people who will either pay lip service to this idea that we're all in this together, or will actively be a bit snaky and will actively be looking to not sabotage people, but like I've been told information this split that I wouldn't feel comfortable telling some of the other casters that I've worked with in the last 2 years because I don't trust them. And obviously not going to name names because that's not what I'm here to do. Everyone logs off the Twitch chat immediately after hearing that. But it's because it's with any entertainment industry, right? You go in, I'm buddy with these people. I have to put on a smile. I've been casting with people, not people I cast with regularly, it must be admitted, but I've been on like one-time things with people. Well, I just like 20 minutes into listening to them talk, I'm like, I straight up don't like this person. But I'm gonna be smiling, happy, hyping them up as soon as broadcast starts because that's my job. And you're not going to be best mates with every single person you work with. It's not. I think people have this idea that like after an NLC broadcast, where you'll go back to the green room, grab like 7 drinks, and just chill out all night. That's not how it is. Ultimately, we'll go get food together. I've been to get food with people from NLC and stuff, and I've hung out with NLC people outside of League and like outside of broadcast. But ultimately, it's a job. Like I'm not hanging around with Archerom every single day in Discord after broadcast and like chilling out with him and swapping stories about our lives. It's just not kind of the relationship that I have with people.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of other people where you'll go into a green room and I'll be kind of trying to chat with people, like trying to bring the energy up, drinking 17 energy drinks. My body is a mess at this point anyway. And there are people who come into the green room, they'll put their headphones in and they'll sit there. And you're not interacting with them, like, because that's just how it is. And I'm not saying where that, like, there's casters in every single green room I've been in that have been like that. Not to say that they have to be everyone's best mate, because of course you don't. That'd be stupid. But it's not, don't believe that every single caster who appears on the screen smiling or puts their arm around each other a photo are mates, because it's just not the case, right? And it's just an image, a facade of people saying. It's the same way where I've turned up to work on NLC days where I'm like, I straight up don't want to be here. I'm tired. I've got a sore throat. I have to do 5 games, maybe more with delays. Where I just don't want to be there, but I'll put a smile on my face every single time I go on camera because that's my job. And people are at that level, at least, professional the majority of the time and will not show that they don't want to be there. So yeah, it's don't believe the casting media of we're all busy mates, because I if they are, then I'm owed a lot of birthday presents from all of the other casters who have not sent me birthday presents. So yeah, it's not unexpected that people aren't going to be best friends, but it is just how it is at the end of the day.
I think it applies to other areas as well. You know, I'm thinking I follow football quite closely. You look at some of the things we have on Amazon documentaries now, and you see not all these players are friends with each other. On the contrary, some of them are enemies, even though they're on the same team. And you know, players in esports as well. We see communication issues. Journalists, you know, I think a lot of journalists do get along with each other, but then there are some where there are rivalries and they call each other out on Twitter and so on. You know, sadly it's part of human nature, isn't it? I think, to have that. Is there any sort of, I don't want to play into this idea that Dom just writes about drama, because I don't. But in the early days of UK League, you know, that there was drama seemingly everywhere.
Oh yeah,
it was
absolutely.
Still professionalizing. Have you seen any cases of, you know, drama behind the scenes with casters, and then it's all smiles when the lights go on and you think this is weird?
Dom, let me tell you. You say there was drama in the UK scene a few years ago. My friend, there is drama in the UK scene like now. Like it's not. People are falling out. There's bickering. This isn't just casters, obviously. This is everyone behind the scenes, including players, coaches, production staff. It's not like there is always drama. There is always beef. I've been involved in it myself personally, multiple times throughout my career. To my shame, I should have been above that, but I just kind of never was. But yeah, there's always something going on. There's always someone's been screwed over for this gig, or someone said this about this person, or someone didn't take feedback on board and is now salty because they think they've been flamed. Like, there's always something that's like not like big major levels of drama, but there's always something that's two people aren't getting on, because that's the nature of people, right? When you've got an industry that's full of young people who want to have their dream come true, and every single slight or speed bump is them losing out on their dream. Yeah, there's going to be passion, there's going to be tempers, and there's going to be falling out. It's really how people work past that and how they either avoid it if they're not involved, because the worst thing is people getting in your business if you're like having a falling out with other casters. I had a pretty beefy falling out with another caster for about 6 months. And just people getting involved with that business was nonsense. Like, it was just the worst thing in the world. I would tweet anything that wasn't overtly massively positive, and I'd get 7 DMs like, "Is this about this person?" I'm like, no, it's not about this, but it's about like, I think I tweeted something off the back of like a really bad date I'd had or something, and someone was like, "Oh, is this about this caster?" And I'm like, get a life. Like, what? No, my life doesn't revolve around this one human being who was kind of a dick to me 6 months ago. But and the fact of the matter is, everyone's very interested until the issue is resolved. Like, I resolved my issue with that caster. We met up and was like, I was like, what you did was a dick move. I can't really be that mad at you though. I wouldn't have done the same thing, but like, move on. And they were like, yeah, it's fair. I was naive. It's kind of what it is. I'm not gonna do that kind of thing again. No one cared when we made up. Like, that wasn't news to anyone.
I've noticed that. I've noticed that with people with me as well. Sorry, Will. Yeah.
No, it's that's absolutely fine. It is literally just what makes a good headline, what makes a good story, or what's good to like hear about, right? Like, I don't go to people in the scene and go, "Hey, what's the good word? Is everyone happy?" Like, I go to people like, "Hey, you got any tea? Like, I heard there's been some shady stuff going on." Like, that's what people are interested in, right? And of course, in journalism yourself, that's what people want to read. I bet if you put up an article about gross score drama, it'll get more clicks than like Viperoon casts NLC Div 2 finals. Like, the drama will get more clicks because that's what people want to see. It's tragic for us as a human species.
It is.
Also, like, I can't sit here and pretend that if I was given the option of reading drama or something that's good, I wouldn't read the drama, because I absolutely would. Right? Like, that's just the kind of people like I am, and I think unfortunately the kind of people that a lot of people are.
Yeah, it's a real tough one. Are there any particular stories you want to share, Will? Obviously, you don't have to name names, or anything that sort of surprised you or stand out in memory. I mean, this could be good memories or moments as well. Doesn't have to be negative.
What would be
something that stood by you that you might remember when years down the line you're telling stories to people about
There's been
casting?
so much nonsense in my career. I'll talk to people at pies and stuff about everything that's happened in my esports career, and people are shocked at how much nonsense has just occurred. So for the first NLC finals, no, that's not true. The first UKLC finals I ever did, which was the live finals in Twickenham, I slept in the sound guy's basement because the company that was putting on the show would not pay for us to have a hotel room. And by us, I mean any of the UK production staff. And I asked the producer the next, like, on one of the days, "Yo, what would have happened if the 2 observers you have on this league weren't able to sleep in the sound guy's basement?" And he'd been like, "The management said we just wouldn't have observers. For a live finals, they would have used direct to camera." Like, it blows my mind. And then, like, I was like, that would never happen. That's so stupid. Like, 4 or 5 months later, I'm at Neo Surf Cup, they didn't bring an observer with them. Like, game 1 was so bad to watch that I went backstage after game 1 and was like, "I'm observing this tournament for you now because this is ridiculous. People are, like, not having a good viewing experience." And we were getting tweets after game 2 of that people joking like, "Haha, has NUEL Cup actually just hired an observer for game 2?" And we said, like, there were like pictures on Twitter of us sending selfies like, "Yeah, they have," because no one was enjoying the experience. So I
That was
guess
Excel, that one. They
it
should know
was, yeah.
better.
It was. I don't think it was necessarily them who had organized production. I can't remember who was
Okay.
on. I think it was an external company who did
Right.
production. They're lucky I can't remember their names because I'd be calling them out for sure. But it was me and Lee Routley, who is now at LVL over in Berlin,
Yeah.
but was a assistant producer on the UKLC at that point.
Yeah.
Who we went and did that because we were just like, we might as well at this point. Didn't get paid. God, thank you for some of the Excel guys, but never got any merch from that one. So you know,
And the sound engineer basement one,
yeah,
the first UKLC, that would have been LVP.
it was LVP.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do maintain to this day, and this is gonna put some bees in the bonnet of a few people that I respect. So if you're watching this and you're one of those people, you know who you are. Don't take this to heart. UK League and like NLC League has not had the soul that it had since LVP. Like the love and the passion that went into the LVP UKLC behind the scenes from like talent, production staff, even stretching for like social media hasn't been replicated since. And I've been involved in every iteration since.
Do you think that's because we've split and joined with the Nordics as well? And
Yeah,
like Don Jake said, we've lost some of our identity.
yeah. I don't want to be the Brexit means Brexit guy on this stream, but I do think, broadly speaking, if you said to me, there's the option for UKLC to split from NLC and go back to being its own league, I would take it 100%.
I might like to do a
And
poll on that, Will, see what people
yeah,
think.
I would legitimately take it. And I raised this with a few other people, and a lot of people disagree with me on this. The fact that the Nordic League is being run out of Berlin blows my mind when our region has some of the biggest centers for esports and entertainment in the world. Like when we've got Copenhagen, Stockholm, Reykjavik, and London in our region, the hell is it being run out of Berlin? And I understand why it's being run out of Berlin because Fricks View are doing it. They've already got the studio there. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But come on, if we had a live final between, let's say the finals between X7 Esports and Dusty Esports, we could have had a final between any two teams and all of the fans would have had to go to a different country. Like next season, I would potentially have to get a visa to go to the NLC finals. Even if it was X7 JDXL, we're all going to need visas to attend it because it's in Berlin. Like,
is this the Aurora thing?
No, like even for like NLC, because from January, visas and stuff become a thing for UK people,
right? Yeah,
to travel to Berlin. So fortunately, we've had pretty free movement this split, which has made it much easier for the likes of myself, who's been in and out casting.
Mm-hmm.
But next year, like UK teams are going to need visas to get into the country to play finals. Like, and I understand that would be the same if we were in like Copenhagen or Stockholm, but I just no NLC finalist is ever going to have a home crowd while it's based in Berlin, and to me that's really, really sad. And I understand that like freaks could go on the road and do something in Stockholm or Reykjavik or London. I do get that, but I'm looking at the other regions that we're trying to catch, where we're so far behind we can't even see them as dots at this point. I'm looking at stadiums full of LFL and Superliga fans. NLC, when it's in Berlin, can never replicate that because no one's traveling to Germany to watch NLC. And I get that it's the dream, and I get there are a lot of people who say, well, they will, the viewership's up, people are more interested in the league. I don't know if NLC could fill the LEC studio at the moment with fans on like 2 weeks' notice. And it's super tragic because you look at the production value, you look at the people involved, the talent, the teams. You look at the teams and talent we've got. we should be a top 2-3 region easily. If people stop choking at EUM, we can be a top 3 region. But in terms of viewership and like fan interaction and stuff, people just kind of don't care. And it really sucks because I've been part of this product for 4 years in various capacities, and it's always been that way. And I hope someone works out how to change it. I know freaks are saying, like, they're shouting about their numbers and the improvement in viewership a lot, which is nice. But I want to see, like, people start caring about this region a little bit more, because right now, I'm sorry, like, if I'm looking at spectacle, I'm watching LFL, because the hype and the noise that you get from those stadiums is insane, and we've never had that, anything close to that.
Even if they shove some players into a gaming bar like Pixel Bar or Platform, I would quite like that in the UK. But then maybe they could do different lands in different Nordic countries and shake it up a bit.
I mean,
you know,
every
that way.
single country has every single Nordic country has a city that we could do a final in. Like, the UK has many, many cities they could do a final in. And I get the UK is a bit dead now because you have to get visas and stuff to get in. So even if we remove the UK from reckoning, there are so many countries. Like, Reykjavik has become a esports hub seemingly overnight during COVID. Copenhagen, obviously, rich history. Stockholm has so many purpose-built facilities. You even look at a place like Helsinki. Like, that could work as a cool place to go and have a final. But no, we're seemingly landlocked in Berlin. And if you're in Berlin to watch esports, LEC's there. So why are you going to NLC?
Yeah,
and I guess that's part of the problem with viewership, because we're in English. Why are you watching NLC when you can watch LEC? And
it came across as a cost saving for me, using a studio that's already there.
Very potentially. Obviously, I can't comment on why decisions were made because no one asked me. But I do think the production value and stuff on NLC The Split has been significantly higher. The studio's nice. They've got a good production crew behind them. Like, the observers are good, the sound guys are good, all of this stuff. But it's not the same as when LVP was running it. Yeah, it was a bit rubbish. Like, let's not pretend it wasn't. But like, every week we were allowed to do dumb stuff because we thought it was funny. Like, we had the dog that was there at some points. Like, why was there a dog at points? Orcs broke part of the studio with a whiteboard. We had to buy a fire extinguisher because we were going to give Orcs a cake. Like, you wouldn't see that stuff happen on NLC nowadays. Like, you wouldn't see a caster damage the studio and walk away without a huge fine these days, because it just wouldn't happen.
Is it near the LEC studio? Is it a part of it? I'm
no, not fully aware. It's on the other side. So this is Berlin. Hello, my beard is Berlin. So you, like, the LEC studio is like here, and then the Freaks studio complex is like here. It's up in Spandau, which is like suburby of Berlin.
Yeah.
So it's about an hour from the airport, and the LEC studio is like 20 minutes from the airport.
Yeah.
So they're a little distance away from each other. I remember talking to casters who would have to have a day in LEC, like for content or rehearsals, and then get a taxi across town to come to NLC. And they turn up like an hour late, looking like death. And I'll be there sipping my iced tea like, thanks for turning up, idiots. They didn't usually appreciate that. I'll give it up. But yeah, it's they're in the same city and they're like within commuting distance of each other, but they're not the same thing.
Understood. We've got Megalodontus in the chat as well here. The Shark person saying, rebrand LoL to COD and we're Gucci. Everyone will care. I'm guessing talking about UK stuff.
Honestly, fact, you rebrand it as Rocket League or FIFA, people would start attending that in their thousands. And do not ask me why, but they just would.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know you've questioned some of the passion from teams behind the scenes following LVP. I will say there are some people. Kai Priosko's product manager on NLC seems to be coming across very passionate and pushing things forward. But like I've said to William as well, like, I think people want to see more from Freaks for You. I don't really think I've had a conversation. Well, I have had a few, but like on the record in terms of interviews and stuff like that, Freaks for You are just very, very quiet. It'd be nice to get some input from them. So I know what you mean. They almost acting a bit like Valve to me.
Yeah,
they don't really communicate.
it's quiet. I do fear that if you talk to the people at the highest level, it would just be company line. We're really happy with the growth numbers from viewership that we're getting this season and the performance of our teams at the European stage. And we're going to continue to invest in the scene. But like LVP said the same thing. They lasted a year. DreamHack said the same thing. They lasted 2, but one of them was a COVID year. So we can talk about like who knows. Like if Freaks are here for the long haul, and I know that there are a lot of people who want them to be here for the long haul, and there are a lot of people who don't want them to be here for the long haul. One, we've kind of exhausted options if it's not Freaks because we've used a lot of the other groups. But they need to like. I would like to hear more from them as a fan now, but like also I don't know if I'd really care about what they had to say unless like you get someone like Kai on and he's speaking openly and honestly. That would be a great interview. I'd tune in for that every day and twice on Sundays. But if it's just like a statement from like someone at the top level, like don't really know if it would be worth the paper it's written on in terms of actual content.
Is there anything? Hello, Jamada's in the chat with a smiley face here. Is there anything you would like to see changed at the NLC? Because I hear ups, I hear downs, I hear all kinds of things.
Yeah, get Jamada out to start. Like, get that guy's not good. I mean, there is stuff I'd like to see changed. Some of it I cannot talk about just because I made a vow to not name anyone negatively. But there are some people who are involved in the product who I don't want to be involved in the product anymore. But I mean, it is difficult. I think just giving a bit, make some content. And I get that you have to pay people to make this content. Pay people to make content, right? Give your teams like a budget. Say to each team, you've got 200 quid or whatever, 200 euros to go away and make some content. And if you want to use our casting talent for it, we'll have to pay them, but yeah, go ahead. Right? Like, the content we got from teams was kind of a bit dead this season. I'll give it up. And I like a lot of the teams that we have in NLC. I watch stuff like I watched your interview with Don Jake. I'm far more positive on the teams that we have than he is. But like, come on, you can do better than putting a fan in the street, Astralis. Like you're better than that. For like NLC, the content they were putting out, some of it was better. But you can do better than what you did, right? Like the Lee Sin Jungle Killer Challenge. Cool. That's fun. That's a fun concept. That's like a lot of the content that we did this split. And that was just Archeron. There were 7 other members of talent. Like what were we doing realistically? And the answer is not a fat lot. Yeah. So the content, do more of that. Get the teams to actually care about making content and stuff. And then just see where that drives you for the next next split and see if viewership changes, see how much people interact with the product then, I guess.
Yeah. Jamada said, cringe from bowl cut Will Viper wits.
It's not a bowl cut for a start because the back is longer and the sides are long, you can't see it. He knows I'm right, unfortunately for him. But yeah, I think that's also like legitimately, a couple of teams need to go in terms of NLC and bring in some teams that actually care and will invest, right? Like legitimately, and it's gonna be like a meme because he's in chat. But like teams like Absolved, who actually cared and put together good rosters and competed, and then got sold. Like that's tragic, right? Because a team like that who could put in a strong like a mid-table to upper mid-table roster who can compete, like they would have been another Bifrost. And there are a couple of organizations that could have been like that had they invested. But then there are teams that you can see just haven't invested. They're just, I don't know if they don't care or if they're just incapable. I'm confident I could have built a roster to beat a couple of these teams at NLC, given NLC budget. I think I could have got a team that wasn't in relegation. And I'm a moron. So the fact that teams with like staff can't do it is a little bit tragic. I'll give it up.
You spoke about content following on from what Don Jake said. And I do think some teams have done some good content. One thing I've taken from someone who consumes a lot of content, both articles and video, and on YouTube as well, a lot of League of Legends content and things over the years, and general gaming content. Us gamers, we like stuff that's funny.
Yes.
Right? It doesn't always need to be slapstick or silly, but I think gamers do have that sort of gamer sense of humor. And when I'm thinking of, I'm not saying like NLC needs to have viral content, but when I'm thinking of stuff that really goes from thousands of views to millions, it's things like who's that guy in France, Remy, I think it is, something, who dresses up as Mario Kart characters and Pac-Man, and he goes around his supermarket and causes mess and stuff like that. You know, let's get some of the NFC casters doing some cosplay or something and going out in the street and doing some silly stuff like, I don't know, Lee Sin, has to navigate Berlin with a blindfold, and something like that. I think would be quite funny.
There has been content kind of discussed where it's very stupid. I remember pitching an idea where I was going to go around. We had to nix it because we didn't have the budget for like a camera crew. But I was going to go around to a bunch of people just in Berlin and just ask them about NLC, like specific questions, like, "Oh, what do you think about Viking coming in instead of MC?" And just to random people who would not know what I was talking about, and just film their reaction to it.
Didn't Doctor do that and a few
Doctor
others?
did something very similar. I remember
like that, didn't they?
We had a discussion about it in 2019.
Yeah.
About doing this kind of content for UKLC. Because it was actually like we were in discussions about doing a whole UKLC after show. There was going to be a third day of broadcast, which was going to be myself hosting a show about UKLC where we do stupid segments and stuff. And that was one of the ideas, and Doctor's done a similar thing. But like there are ideas, and like some of the people, like Archeron, objectively hilarious dude, like just very funny. Hiprain, objectively very funny as people. And it's a bit criminal that they weren't utilized the most effectively. And like you look at the content like Gulborg was making for LEC, like some of it's pretty funny, some of it's nightmare fuel. I'll give it up. But
the Nightmare one, the post thing, the ice
I told
cream
Gulborg, Gulborg as Mr. Rogers is my sleep paralysis demon. Because it just haunts me. It haunts me to this day. But there's stuff that could have been done, but it just never really was, ultimately.
One thing I want to ask about, Will, we mentioned socials, right? And how it can affect mental health. Like, I think people compare numbers and so on. Like you were saying, you could have carried on doing this for a few years, but for me, from what it was sounding like to me, from what you said at the start of this interview, was there wasn't that sort of personal growth there that you might have wanted, whether that's follower numbers or whatever it is. I mean, look at someone like Nymera doing really well. I really rate Nymera. I don't know what he has now, 5,500 followers or something. When you compare that to someone like Medic or Quickshot, for me, that line between sub 10,000 and 50 to 100k is actually quite fine. I've seen casters, I've seen journalists go from 1,000 to 2,000 followers to about 30 to 40,000 followers in a space of 2 weeks. That is mad to me.
You can certainly do it. I mean, my main problem with social media, and this is kind of this is going to be the hot take, I guess, the spicy take, is one of the reasons I quit was because I look at social media, look at Twitter, look at Twitch chat and stuff when I was casting. The scene just did not care about me at all. Like you look at EUM finals, right? Like there were people tweeting like, "Oh, Initialize, he's so great. I love his casting. I love like he's doing so well." I would come off the back of pop-off banger series to nothing, like to like 4 likes on my like thanks for having me on the show tweet. Like people just did not care when I was on a broadcast.
Why do you think that is? I think you're quite a likable.
I'm a good caster. I think it's because I don't necessarily have like a brand, I suppose. I was just kind of there on merit, I guess, was the case of like, what's Viperoon on this broadcast for? Because he's a good caster, and on my day, like I still maintain this from stuff like EUM. On my day, I'm as strong as any of the LEC play-by-plays. Like, I know that sounds like a big ego thing. I think at my peak, I was. The fact that I never got onto LEC, especially off the back of E-Masters semifinals into a strong split on NLC, was like gut-wrenching for me, seeing myself never get an opportunity on LEC, and knowing that I never will now have that opportunity. Really, really sucks. But the fact of the matter is, you look at people like Nymera, look at Initialize, look at Jamada. They come off a broadcast where they've done well. People will tell them that they've done well on Twitter. People will be hyped to see them in Twitch chat. But I never had that.
Do you think, and forgive me if I'm being like too simplistic here. Do you think it comes down to things as well? You mentioned brand, but like distinguishing features, because I think I'm quite a boring looking guy, right? I'm not very memorable. Do you think it's to do with that? Because this again, I spoke to a doctor and Greyheart about this. Was it someone I don't know needed to give you a makeover or
I
something, or a
don't.
different kind of
I
style?
don't. It was. I don't think that was necessarily the case. The most interaction I got was when I turned up to NLC in a stupid outfit. But I ultimately, I was always of the opinion that like I don't want people to talk about me because of some cheap gimmicks, right?
Mm,
I don't want people to talk about me because I can make a joke on broadcast, right? Like I don't want that to be why someone's like, "Wow, Viperoon's hilarious because he made a joke about I don't know, Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or Pokemon or whatever I'm feeling. Those are just things that I enjoy. So that's why I've
mm,
gone for those examples. But like, I always wanted people to be like, wow, Viperoon really popped off in that broadcast. Or wow, Viperoon is like really improving this split as a caster. And these are comments that other casters were getting, and I was not. Um, and it was really heartbreaking to come off like it's the pain of coming off a broadcast, sitting down with the other caster and being like, the other caster being like, yo, dude, that was sick. You need to put stuff in that from your highlight reel. And then I go onto Twitter and there'd be nothing at all.
but do
And
you
I
need to
go,
push your content more? Have you done
well,
highlight reels and things?
no, I've done reels and stuff before, yeah, and I would consistently go on and be like putting stuff out on Twitter. But then like I would put out stuff and it wouldn't get interacted with, and I'd be like, oh well, this is a waste of time. And then the next week, initialize Nightmare on broadcast, and Twitter's like in love with them. And I'm just
Mm,
like, I would sit there and even be like, yo, I had a better cast than initialized it this week. No one would care. Like I still wouldn't get the interaction. Or I'd sit there and go like, yo, I kind of carried this broadcast I did this week on Div 2. Like I was on fire and I was carrying another caster.
mm,
Wouldn't get commented on. Um, it was just really rank, to be honest. Like, and I get that, and it's always the kind of case of sounds like it's like salty and crying, like where people don't like me as much as they like their favorite casters. Because there are people who have DM'd me because I've put out on Twitter at times like, yo, I'm sad that like people aren't into my content or aren't into my casting. And people will DM me like, oh, you're my favorite caster, blah blah blah. And I'm like, push comes to shove, none of you say it. Like, maybe I think a lot of it is just like needing that little bit of extra support. And I think it does matter because you look at social media numbers, um you look at like who gets talked about, right?
mm.
I don't think it's a massive coincidence that when Nymera was shooting up in viewership numbers and like was being talked about very positively, that he got a shot on LEC. And then the dude absolutely killed it on LEC. But then like I'm the lowest following of any caster in NLC, and I'm the only one who hasn't been on LEC. And I don't think that's a coincidence either. And where it's like a few more followers and a bit more positive feedback, maybe someone takes notice of me. Because
Mm.
I've walked into like meetings and stuff with people, like talent managers from big tournaments who don't know who I am. And when I'm like on European Masters, on NLC, for League of Legends tournaments, I feel like people should probably be aware of me. But then when you talk about like Hitbrain to them, they instantly know who that is.
Yeah. See,
So
I'm scrolling through your Twitter now. I would, do you think it's if I was a caster, I would be sharing a lot more of my, 20, 30-second clips of, I don't know, a team fight that's been turned around or an amazing clutch play. Do you think that's to
yeah,
do with it?
I
Well, I
mean,
don't really see casters doing that, so maybe it's
maybe a
not to
part
do
of
with
it,
that.
but also like you can talk about. I would quite freak. I would share most clips of my casting that have been shared on a social media account or I've been tagged in.
Mm,
Fact is, I was not being tagged in anything. Like you can, and this is something that I've done. So this is like verifiable evidence of this. Um, my clips and acts of me casting on stuff like NLC and European Masters, I do not get tagged as much as other casters do. It just wasn't happening. Um, and you look at content and stuff where I was asked to do content for NLC and like to be involved in stuff. And like, so for example, I'm not gonna like the Lee Sin Clear challenge, right? They've got the little things that like pop up like the comments. All of the talent were asked about our like arcane personas so that we could all be included in that. Only Initialize and Nymera were. Like, I gave an answer, like I got a reply from my answer, never included.
Oh, that's weird, isn't it?
And like that is not the first time something like that has happened. And it's not a case of, and I know it sounds like it's always initialized on error. That is not the case, and they would had no say in this at all. So definitely not talking about them. But like, I've never been the marquee caster for any league I've been part of. And I have never felt pushed as a caster in any league I've ever been part of, in terms of like, yeah, Viperoon's the guy. Let's like let's talk about him. Let's put his clips up on our socials. Like, it always feels like there are other casters who get that treatment more than I do. And a lot of that is I live as me. So when I see myself being omitted from stuff, I will notice it more. Other casters will have the same treatment, I am sure. Like every caster will have that treatment. But I
Yeah.
couldn't hack it at the end of the day. So it's kind of how it is.
It's and you know, do you think? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate a bit here, where you can tell me if I'm being too annoying. Do you think you've pushed yourself as much as you could have done, or do you feel like you shouldn't have to do that?
I think it's a bit of column A, bit of column B. I think initially I pushed myself very hard
Right.
to the point of like spamming social media. Um, but then I wasn't getting positive like feedback from it. I wasn't getting that growth. I was getting people unfollowing me because I was tweeting too much.
Yeah.
And I've seen casters who are abjectly criminal about how they use their Twitter. Like, I don't need to see 17 posts a day from you, random caster. Like that. Not saying I know there's actually a random caster. Wasn't talking about him.
Yeah.
But you don't need to. Like, and I was kind of. It gets to a point. It's a very self-fulfilling prophecy of I put a tweet out there, no one would care, or there wouldn't be interaction to it. So I'd be like, oh, well, no one cares, and then I wouldn't bother doing anything for the next few days because I'd be
I
like,
go
well, what's
through
the point?
that. I go through that as
Yeah.
well as a journalist. We do, and I try not to get too hung up on numbers and think. And do you know what I want to say as well? We need to remember this. Esports has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Those early personalities, Shocks and whoever else, Foreign and all those people. I'm not undermining what they've done because they've done a lot of important work. But esports has changed now. You can't deny that it's much more competitive now
Oh yeah, it
than
was
it was
you.
back then. So those, back then I think we had fewer bigger names. Now
Yes.
it's loads of casters and things like that. So I don't think it's easy. Not as easy, but it's harder to get those
Yeah,
numbers.
that would be the. I know that we're running over already, but I feel like I'm obliged to give my like hot tip on casting. If
Mm.
you want to be a caster, how would you get up there? Um, the main factor is I know you did an interview with Medic actually,
Yes.
where he was talking about how to become a caster, and I was actively laughing because you cannot. No one's story of how they became a caster is replicable. I see so many new casters. A caster legitimately came to me and they said, and I said like, "Oh, what's your plan for next season? Like, where are
Mm.
you? Where are you off to?" And they were like, "Oh, I'm just going to do LGL and then I'll get into NLC."
Yeah.
And I was like, "You're straight up delusional." Like, I know that's how Nymera did it, and then initialized to a point, but how much is that influenced by other stuff? Like, he was on NLC first and stuff as well.
Mm.
Like, people look at like Nymera's rise, or they look at Hitbrain's rise or Jamada's rise. And they're like, "I'll do that." You don't get to do that. There gets to be exactly one person who makes that work. And the fact is, if you've seen someone do it, then they're that one person, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be the next Nymera because Nymera has already done that. And like, we don't need another Japanese broadcast, like an unofficial Japanese broadcast. We don't need that anymore because they've done it. We
You've
don't
got to be
need.
yourself, haven't you, and carve
Yeah,
your own
this is.
story.
I think this is a big part of it as well. Like, if you're looking to make your name in esports, don't be a cog in someone else's thing. Like, do your own thing. Be like, go and don't. No, okay. Don't take this out of context. This is going to be clipped badly. Don't be on LGL unofficial. Go do your own unofficial broadcast of
Mm.
something. Like, LGL
And
official is.
Nightmare Initial, I said that to us the other week. Lee, who
This
was
is the
doing the
thing.
interview for us.
Like, they made that work so well. And of course, if you want to go on that broadcast because you love the region or whatever, be my guest. Like, totally do that. But you should, if something's not paid, don't work for someone else. Work for yourself. Because hey, I could go on LGL unofficial for a split. I wouldn't get paid a penny. I don't think they pay at this point anyway. And at the end of it, what have I achieved for myself? Like maybe some clips of my highlight reel. But if I go away and do an English unofficial broadcast of the I don't know, the Balkan League, for example, That's my thing. At the end of the split, I've got something that I've built and that I've created and I have ownership over. And hey, there might be benefits to that. There'll be benefits to doing both, but it'll be something that I've got control over and that I've done for myself, which a lot of casters don't get. They always just think, I'm going to cast in this league, this league, this league. The casting scene below NLC was murdered at the beginning of the year. I don't know who the culprit is. If I find them, I will be having serious words. So there's not a stepstone, there's not a ladder. There's a lot of casters in contention for NLC and stuff like that. Like, I've seen lists of casters in upwards of 100 names right now for NLC, like Div 2 stuff. And that doesn't include a bunch of casters that I think should be on those lists. So get yourself in front of the right people. So by all means, like, guest on stuff like LGL and official and whatnot. But do something that you can be proud of and that you can sit down and say, like, yeah, I did that. This is my project. I've done something cool. Because ultimately, that could be you do an unofficial Balkan League broadcast for a year and a half. Hey, maybe you get a spot on European Masters play-ins, right? Like, I spent 2 years in the Baltic League working for someone else. I didn't have much to show from that. I didn't get my NLC spot because of the Baltic League. Like, it was just something I was doing. Like, you don't... Please just do stuff for yourselves. Don't be someone else's... Don't be like a member of someone else's team when you can create your own. Unless there's very specific good reasons why you want to do that. Or if you just want to do it for fun, right? I know casters who are like, LGL and official is the most supportive, best place to be as a caster. Absolutely love it there. I'm not looking to be on LEC. I just want to have fun casting and improve. And in that case, LGL official is perfect for you. But if you've got this, I want to be LEC, do your own thing. Do something that's going to improve your own standing rather than someone else's standing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people agreeing with you. We're all saying some good points there. Now, I know you said we're over. We had our producer shout out to Alex who said we can go on a little bit longer. So I'll do a sort of quick fire round because there are, like there were a few things that I was sort of missing a little bit here. I'll say quick fire and then I'll save a bit for the end as well. So, what do you dislike about Vigar?
Right. Okay.
Because apparently you ban him every single game, according to Wikipedia.
His E is broken. His E is a broken ability. Its cooldown is only like 3 seconds longer than the stun at max rank. It can hit multiple members of the enemy team. Oh, just dodge it. Doesn't matter about dodging it. You can close off an entire jungle entrance. If you're doing Baron on blue side, you can just turn off the entire ramp with your ability that's on like an 8-second cooldown. This is fine on like an ultimate ability for a champion. Vigar E is just a better fresh ultimate and people can't get it out of their minds. Furthermore, you then add the rest of his kit on top of it. Like, the dude can literally stun your team for 4 seconds and one-shot your carry. And he builds utility and tank.
But if he misses if he misses the E, he's got no mobility.
But it doesn't matter, because his E's up again in 8 seconds. And the fact
if I'm Vi or I'm playing champs like that, like Dyna, he's dead at that point.
Well, no, but the thing is, he's built Frozen Heart and Everfrost, so he kind of doesn't care.
Does he?
Yeah.
Not in my Elo, he doesn't.
I've seen some stuff, and the fact is, he's not building tank, and you're Vi. He's pressing his ultimate button when you're pressing your ultimate button, and you're not reaching him because you're dead. And it's very grimy, and I've not come across a champion who, like, I say this to people all the time. I choose to live in a world where I don't get a ban in League of Legends, but Vigar does not exist. And until they rework the champion and specifically remove his E, he will remain bad. He's the only thing in the world where I have a team members hover him and I ban it. And I'll have randoms be like, why'd you ban my champ? And I'm like, you don't deserve to play as champ. Like, get lost. Like, no. You can ban... I'll hover my champ. I'm like, I'm going to play Malphite this game. If you want to ban my champ, you be my guest. But Vigar's not coming into my game.
Are you a mid laner?
No, I'm not. I'm like a top jungle player.
Have you had a game where a Vigar's been roaming or something and has demolished you and has upset you?
No, because I haven't played against the Vigar in maybe like 4 years.
Because you ban him every time.
Yeah, I think I've let him through a couple of times where like a player has been like, please let me play this, let me play this. And they've always been on my team and they've always fed.
Yeah, Vigar's, I don't know, he's one of those champs. If he's on my team, he either does well or does very poorly. Kind of like Vayne. I don't see any middle of the road Vaynes. They're either absolute dog or...
It's the same as Yasuo. They're either brilliant or terrible, and I tend to get the terrible ones in my elo because I'm currently silver, which is not
Well,
good
I was going to
odds.
say, Megalodontus in the chat. How dare you? He said that's why you're bronze, Dom, like me. You be bronze. I'm silver. I have you know, Megalodontus, and I've peaked gold. So don't
Nice.
be calling me bronze. Thank you very
I'm a
much.
gold staple. I peaked plat 4 in a preseason because I temp eloed Nocturne because when he was turbo broken, I played like 50 games of Nocturne when I was like, you need to get to plat in a preseason, and I was like, I've achieved this now. I now don't care.
And now you've
Um,
mentioned the champion who I ban every game because people in my
ah,
elo don't know how to deal with him. I say, don't push
yeah.
too far up the tower because I'm pinging Nocturne. He's got his ult ready, and they don't listen. Then they're both dead.
That's
So I
stunning.
just ban him every game now. I'm a jungler as well. So yeah. Anyway, we're going on a tangent. This quick fire round. Leaguepedia also says you was part of the White Knight Gaming
Yeah,
roster that
White
lost
Knight
in open
Gaming.
qualification for ESL Prem in under
Yeah.
15 minutes. What happened there?
Yeah. So it was a university team. This was one of the reasons why I think ESL closed their qualifiers. So my uni team was ranked between like silver and diamond.
Right.
And we were like, hey, there's an ESL qualifier. We'll play. This will be funny. Because we thought a lot of teams would do that. They didn't. Like everyone was taking it very seriously. And so we were by far and away the lowest seeded team. And because of how seeding works in the first round, the lowest seed plays against the highest seed, which was Misfits Academy. So
Right.
I
Oh
rock
my
up to
god.
lane against Prosper and Chrisberg. And of course, we get wrecked. Like we get absolutely slammed. It was a point where like our top laner got dove level 3, I think, by their top jungler, which was Shikari, and I can't remember their jungler for the life of me. And he was like, how is this illegal? Like, how is this allowed? What's going on? He was playing a tank or something. So we just got ruined in 15 minutes and we vowed to never play competitive again. But it's why whenever Chrisberg or Prosper turn up on my screen, I'm like, hey him, get rid. 0 out of 10. Because they beat me in that one competitive game.
Okay, that's some more insight there. Hitmarker, you've worked for Hitmarker for a
Yep.
bit. Will, have you taken things from that? Are you able
Yeah.
to? Yeah, you've taken stuff from that. You're not obviously announcing where you're going next, but it's sort of
No.
outside of esports, right? You
Yeah,
don't
I'm fully
obviously
moving
have
out
to
of
say.
esports.
Yeah.
Hitmarker was super valuable. I was there for 2 years, which is crazy when I look back at it. It was great to just have a job in esports, which was like an actual human job. Like
Yeah.
going into an office, working with adults, not swearing at the top of my lungs 5 times a day because I'm in a studio. Like it was a really, really great experience. And I can't say that everything about it was positive because that's every work environment. But they took a chance on me when I didn't have much experience in terms of like social media and admin and stuff.
Yeah.
Had a lot of really great memories there. Like nothing but love for the people that run Hitmarker. Own a portion of the company.
Yeah.
So but yeah, it was a really worthwhile thing, I think.
Good stuff. Now I was going to ask as well. You've worked on other broadcasts, Wild Rift
Yes.
and TFT. Was that tricky to jump from League of Legends to those, or was it sort of what was that
Yeah.
like?
So TFT was actually okay, just because the game had just come out, so no one knew how to cast it. And I did a broadcast on. It was a TFT broadcast. I cast with Black Enola, who's a content creator or something. I didn't know of him before I cast with him,
No.
and it was like midnight. I think my call time was, and I was with him for like 4 hours of TFT, and it was an absolute blast. And I came on to NUEL and they were looking for TFT cast, and I was like, hey, it's 45 quid. And like, why wouldn't I do that? I'm a starving social media manager. So I did that, did it with Aladar, who's now over at Freaks doing content, but should be doing a bit more casting, IMO. And it was kind of a case of we were just like, let's just develop our own style. Let's decide how this game is to be cast. And it was a lot of fun just going through that and kind of building our synergy and stuff. And I got to do like 3 NUEL finals in a row, which was amazing. The TFT. Wild Rift was a bit weird. I had never played Wild Rift before getting the casting opportunity. So I kind of lied until I had because I wanted the job. And then I get there and I get this crash course in Wild Rift. And we're working with some of like the bigger, like we were working with like D-Man and Scoundrel and stuff. And I was just there like, what is Pantheon doing this game? Why is Katarina ult moving? Like, what's wrong with these people? So I was locked away in a Stockholm hotel room the day I got there because it was COVID, so we were all isolating. Like, I think I watched like 50 hours of Wild Rift content sped up on 2 monitors. to kind of just basically get myself to a point where I could talk about the game. Fortunately, I'm a play-by-play, so the like mechanics of it is pretty similar in terms of how the player shouts in the game. But yeah, that was a culture shock to be sure. But both a lot of fun, and would definitely. I play TFT more than I play League at the moment because I love the game so much. But like, yeah, definitely fun experiences to have.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned you peaked at plat, right?
Yes.
Now, some people. What are your thoughts on some people, particularly Reddit, who will just dismiss you if you're a caster and you're below diamond? Because for me, as a journalist, that puts me off a little bit. People thinking, "Oh, Dom can't have great game knowledge." You know, I've been playing League for almost 10 years now. Yes, I'm relatively low elo, but I like to think I have sort of knowledge of the game, not at the expert levels. And I compare it to football. You can have pundits, you can have commentators who haven't played in the Premier League.
Yeah, I don't give Reddit much credence. I don't use the site because Reddit. But it's very much a case of, look, I would not want to be. You can cover up a lack of game knowledge by being a very good caster and watching a lot of comp. Jamad will often say to me, like, I'm one of, and he said this on broadcast, which thought was hilarious. I'm one of the smarter plays he works with because I've watched so much competitive League of Legends. Like you put me through a pick ban phase in a league that I'm working on. Like NLC Div 2, I was walking through ban phases, like calling out the picks as they were coming, like before they were coming. And I'll know how the game is meant to be played in competitive League of Legends because I watch so much of it and I watch all the real, right? And I do get the idea of like, if there's a bronze player, they shouldn't be an analyst at a high level. I do genuinely agree with that. But solo queue is such a different game mode to comp.
Yeah.
Like, so solo queue is a brute force exercise of how much League of Legends you can play, except at like the very tippity top level. If we're talking like below Diamond 2, Diamond 1, the game is a brute force exercise of how much League of Legends you can play. And I would get wrecked by every Diamond player in chat easily. But the fact of the matter is, if I sat down and I played 400 games of League of Legends over the next like 4 weeks, I get sacked from my job, but I probably hit like high plat, low diamond. It just kind of doesn't matter.
It is a time thing. I don't have time.
Yeah, it 100% is. Especially but when you look at like I enter like mid to high plat, it is literally just if you can play, like any player can get there if they play enough games because of law of averages. But yeah, I think that you can be a top level analyst and not be a high ranked solo queue player. But I do think that you have to, if you're not an ex competitive player or high ranked player, you need to be doing so much reviewing of VODs, so much looking at competitive gameplay. It's very, very time consuming. Even for me as a player where I have to feel like I'd have to do less of it than like an analyst does.
Yeah.
I would still be watching when I was casting full time 10, 12 hours of League of Legends, just from leagues that I'm working on. Famously, I don't really watch LEC, but I would be watching NLC back constantly just to make sure I knew what the meta was looking like.
Yeah. Right now, so we're over a little bit here. I'll do the last couple of things here.
Okay.
So, general thoughts on UK League. I've missed the game. I was putting my kids to bed before this stream. I think Natives won. Apparently, this is
excellent.
Sammy Jungles.
Congratulations to them.
Yeah. So what and what are your sort of general thoughts on UK League?
Great. We have an Irish team in top level. We've needed that for a little while. UK League X7 is generally a good thing for UK League because they've got money to throw around, assuming that they don't go boom in the next 6 months, which not saying they will. I have no inside information, but like, haha, I've seen this one before. Then that's really good for them to have a thing. Teams need consistency. Teams need to have a roster that they sign for a year, like X7 did. And they need to hold faith in their players if they're performing. Having natives in will be good because having an Irish org is really important because we've had a history as a scene of not giving Irish orgs credit and giving them a space. Especially there was that drama like 2 years ago where like someone was calling orgs something. It was stupid, but I'm really, really happy for them. UK League, I want it to be its own league again. It's not going to happen. We just need to keep smashing through and getting at least 2 teams to European Masters. Because eventually we just need to prove that we're better than the other Nordic countries and that we have enough teams that can actually compete to have an 8-team league.
Great stuff. I might use some of your quotes, Will. I'm going to write an article after this about natives being promoted. Sad to see Eminem get relegated, though. I do like Eminem, but
Yeah, of course.
I prefer leagues like this to franchise ones. I like promotion relegation.
Yes.
I'm a classic boomer that has grown up on football without
Yeah, I'm
promotion
exactly the
relegation.
same. If
Yeah,
there's
I
no
miss it.
promotion, I'm just not interested.
Yeah, I do like the LEC as well, but yeah, I do miss promotion relegation. Just lastly, now, Will, I should have asked this nearer the start, and if
Right.
anyone has any random quick questions for Will, please ask them in the chat. But your Twitter bio has the quote: "You're a third-rate caster in a fourth-rate league."
Yeah.
What's the story
Yeah.
behind that?
This is actually a very stupid story. So I was in a call with Noam Watley, the streamer. And we were like talking about something. And I think I said, like, we were having an argument, and I said, "You're just the streamer that plays a frog." And then his response was just instantly, "You're a third-rate caster in a fourth-rate league." And I was like, "That's my Twitter bio.
Oh,
That's my Twitter bio now."
he said that. Do you have?
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
that in
yeah.
a tweet? Was it? Did you
No,
say
it
or?
was in a Discord call. Because
Oh, right. Okay.
he went to university with some of my friends from school who I play League with. So we've run in similar circles. And we
Yeah.
were just, I think we were playing like a ranked game, a flex game or something. And he came out with the line, and I was like, "That's hilarious. That's my bio now." Like, so shout out Noam Watley, doing really great on streaming at the moment. Actually, he's getting a lot of
Yeah,
viewers, which is really cool.
he's done well. He sort of he's a one trick for Tom Kench,
He
right,
is,
in the top
yeah.
lane. And when Tom had some nerfs, whenever it was a few months ago, he was sort of losing it and trying to find new ways. But as always, people get creative.
Mm.
They find other ways to climb, and, and all of that stuff. Sorry, I'm being told in the chat, Eminem still have a last chance. That's right. There's a last
Okay,
chance
nice.
qualify on the 28th apparently. So hopefully Eminem make it through there, because we're still waiting to see who the second
Yes.
team is, right, that goes back up, that goes into Div 1. Will, it's been a great chat. I could talk to you
Thanks so
for
much.
hours, mate. Like, it's been a good. I wish you all the best of luck in
Mm.
whatever you're doing next outside of esports. And I've enjoyed your time casting. I think you've done well. We haven't spoken much about EU Masters. You have made it to NLC EU
Yeah.
Masters. So I think you can look back and be proud of what you've done. And yeah, you to me, you're an underrated caster. I think you deserve more. But it's a difficult one, right? And I think hopefully this interview has highlighted that it's not easy, it's not clear cut. Everyone has different stories in casting. You can be an amazing caster and not have millions of followers and so on. It's tough, But is
Yeah.
there anything else you'd like to add, Will, or any sort of conclusions?
No, I guess just for those people who have supported me throughout the years, I really appreciate it. Hopefully this isn't the goodbye forever in terms of UK esports or whatever, depending on where my life takes me. Massive credit to everyone who's helped me out a lot along the way. So you've got like Doctor, Carmeline, like Hip Brain obviously has been a massive asset to me and has helped me out a great deal. Jamada, bit dead, but I do like him. Yeah, and it's generally a lot of it has been a pleasure to like be part of UK esports for so many years,
Mm.
and see it develop. And I'm kind of looking forward to having a break and then coming back just as a fan, right? And hopefully, like my passion for esports might be reignited as someone who doesn't have an invested stake or doesn't really care which casters on broadcast or which teams in the final. Where it's just like, hey, I can sit down and watch some fun League of Legends with some people I like listening to. So that's kind of where I hope to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the dream, I guess.
See how it goes. You might, when you're in this job outside of esports after a year or whatever, a few months, you might think, oh, I might do this here and there or whatever else. Megalodontus, I don't know. I'm taking this as an insult here on the stream, but the only thing I learned is Viperoon hates Vigar.
I mean, not wrong. He's like, if there's one takeaway from this stream, that would be it. Vigar is hard trash. If you play him, you're a bad person. Get rid, basically, right? See him off, and then
Yeah, no, sorry. Will's here. Frigid Cake is here. I'm a big
Fridge
Viperoon
Cake.
fan. It's a strong name. We were talking about you earlier, Will. You have to go
We
back
were,
in the VOD. We're talking about the early days, ESL Prem and all of that stuff. Viperoon was doing a community cup and all of that stuff. And you didn't ask him back after that.
yeah.
No, it's all good. Jamada said, I think he's referring to you here, where we said, this guy smells so badly. Dom, get him off the stream, please. Yeah, Kai said I'm a big fan of anyone called Will. Yeah, too many
Not
Wills. People,
unreasonable.
Sarge is saying. So yeah, it's been great talking to you. Thanks to everyone for tuning in as well. I haven't done a stream in a while. I was saying to Will beforehand, before the stream, going through some craziness at the moment, but I can't say what it is yet. But hopefully, we'll be able to have an update maybe in a few weeks. But I'll keep you posted on that. So hopefully, I'll have more regular streams again from October at some point. So, Will, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the best. And yeah, don't be a stranger. I hope to still see you on my timeline talking about League, even if you're not working in it.
Yeah, and the hot takes have been unleashed. I'm no longer under any NDAs or any contracts, so I can just start spitting
Exactly.
pure toxicity on
I
your
mean, you didn't
timelines.
name any names in this stream, which I
No,
kind
I
of
didn't.
appreciate in a way.
Like as I say, I'm gonna talk about people positively
Yeah,
because when where like people have been good and have done stuff that's worthy of credit, always name them. Where
yeah,
people have been shady, like there are people who in esports I don't like. Like it's just the nature of the game. I'm never gonna try and like drag their names through the dirt because
mm.
it doesn't achieve anything for me. And um, I'm just hopeful that like if people act badly with me, they'll act badly with other people, and then no doubt their career will end some other way.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
don't
And
want
you
to be
don't
the
have to
person who
do
has
it.
to sort that out myself.
It's the thing, and it's a journalist sometimes has a duty to report on
Exactly.
things. A caster doesn't. You don't need to
Yeah.
do that. You know.
You can do
So
my job for me. You can get rid of all the dirt from the scene, and I'll just sit here with my bowl of popcorn and just enjoy the show.
Megalodontus says, thanks to whoever this interviewer is. Thank you, Shark Person. I appreciate that. And yeah, I think that's it. I think we'll leave it there. We're half an hour over. Shout out to Alex
Yeah. Thank you,
from
Alex.
Nottingham Trent Uni at Esports Production for doing this. I really appreciate it. And that's it, everyone. Please follow and Esports News UK. Give Will a follow as well. You know, I'm sure he'll still be commenting on League of Legends. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Hopefully. Thanks,
Yes.
everyone.
See you in a bit.